Here we go. We're coming into the home stretch. This is the last opportunity that we get to integrate and transform with our challenges. It is the last opportunity. After this final transformation, we're going to take a little of the work from the final transformation, we're going to bring it somewhere else, and then we're not going to look at our challenges anymore. They're going to be behind us. Okay? Again, this is two-dimensional. In the next section, we're going 3D. No, I lied. This is two-dimensional, and there's one side of the coin of two-dimensional. The next section, we're going to switch over to visions. We're going to use a different way of looking at things. We're still going to be at 2 dimensions. And later in the program, we're going to move into 3 and then 4. And since I can anticipate someone saying, "Can you give me an example?" What do you mean by this? I'm going to use my future consequential thinking, anticipation, teleological causation machine. An example of external environmental structural factors, and using our example from before, I say, okay, you know, my challenge is I want to lose 30 pounds of fat. And I just listened to this whole thing, and it struck me. Every night I go lock myself in my human zoo with a television and a big bag of Cheetos and some Twinkies. And from what I hear, a human locked in the human zoo ceases to behave like a human. And you know, I watch those science channels where they show the natives running around out there in the wild, and they look like they're in pretty good shape. Huh. So I think what I'm going to do is maybe see if I can start exposing myself to more natural environments and more natural food. Maybe if I combine natural environments more and natural food, that will be something that will indirectly influence this challenge of 30 pounds that I'd like to lose. That's just one example. What you're going to do is take something that you got here from this session, integrate, transform, refine, and one last time, migrate your challenges over to this last exercise. By the way, write a little 6 in the lower right corner. Okay, a little 6 in the lower right corner. So you've got the whole chronology neatly sequenced. Now we're really struggling because we're layering, we're adding more dimension to this, and we're trying to keep it short and tight. So do your best. Try to stay in that 7 to 9 word range, as specific as possible. Try to have at least one challenge in each of the 6 zones here. 1 or 2 is fine. You might leave a couple behind. Another 1 or 2 might show up. And remember the hint from before? Maybe start incorporating a little bit of indirect here. Okay, asking how we can step back 1 layer and address the challenge. Good, I see some light bulbs going off. I can see them happening. Okay, so let's keep it quiet. Right, we're in the home stretch of this part. Just do about, 6, 7 minutes. Okay? Just write fast. Go. Trust your mind. Trust your intuition. Okay, you know what to do. Find a partner, someone you don't know, someone you haven't worked with yet. Feel free to visit the other territory if you'd like. Share your biggest insight, and then critically, it's very important, make sure that as you're working with the other person, you coach them, share how you incorporated that insight into one of your challenges, okay? Into the clarifying, the refining of one of your challenges. Insight plus how you incorporated it. Okay, so who's really starting to enjoy the mutilation and slow, torturous death of hope? Feelers aren't liking that? No, no, no. As a good friend of mine said, hope must die. The hope's got to die. Because the hope is a distraction. The hope is a big illusion. Okay, the hope keeps us hypnotized and not looking at reality. Right? As long as we've got some hope, and we don't have to deal with what's really going on. Oh, yeah. Okay, so who had an insight there they'd like to share? This gentleman, someone that hasn't shared yet? Yeah. Will you three come up here?
I'm Bruce, and I've come from the Turks and Caicos Islands in the Caribbean. And about 8 months ago, I was actually standing at this microphone at one of your seminars, and you were coaching me on my dream of moving to the Caribbean. And 2 months later, I would find a house on the beach in the Turks and Caicos, and I ended up in the Caribbean. So thanks, Evan. I've been there, and it's been extraordinary.
Hang on a sec. I did that.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's coming to the seminar that made that happen.
But something happened, has happened to me over the last 6 months. I've noticed kind of the expansiveness of my thinking has been shrinking. And I've been living a smaller and smaller existence living on an island. And what I got through these exercises was the power of the people I surround myself with. I'd kind of gone from living in London, where I'd been hanging out with big thinkers and thinking big and doing big things in the world, to an island where there's only 20,000 people, and a road trip consists of a 10-minute drive to the supermarket and back, because that's as far as you can drive on the island. And where the people on the island's biggest concern was who's sleeping with who and where they're going to go get drunk that night, right? And in the beginning, here comes Bruce with his big thoughts on, life, the universe, and everything, and nobody wanted to listen. And of course, I arrived not knowing a soul on the island and didn't want to face my biggest fear of being alone on this new island. So the first, I wanted people to be my friends, so I kind of stopped sharing my big thoughts on life, the universe, and everything, and slowly my life became less and smaller and smaller and smaller, and I became less expressed, and ended up actually living in paradise, not very happy by the end of it. And the realization I had today was that it was the context, it was the people in my environment. I mean, obviously I played some part in it too, but I'm only so strong, and there was only so long I could fight against the environment that I'd put myself in. So it was very powerful, and what I got out as an action step to take is, I'm moving to the Dominican Republic next month. I've decided Turks is a bit too small, 20,000 people. Dominican Republic's got 10 million people. And when I arrive there, I'm going to be very picky and choosy as to who I let into my life. And I've got to create some kind of filtering criteria. I don't mean it in kind of maybe too much of an analytical way, but I can't allow people whose biggest priority is getting drunk at the local pub to be hanging around with me every day, because like you say, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with in life. So that was profound. I realized I'm not that strong.
That's a good challenge to have a realization about. You notice how he's going from taking 2 months to uproot his life and move to now he's going to do it in a month. Yeah. That's the efficiency you get from iteration. Good job, Bruce. Thank you. Thank you. You can meet that guy.
Hi, my name is Edward Lowe. I'm from New York City. I'm actually here with my wife, Patricia. We came here for our first anniversary trip. I thought there's probably no better investment that we can make than doing this.
Thank you. The idea that you're spending your first anniversary in this inspiring atmosphere that we've been in all day, beautiful. It's beautiful.
So it really is. So I had a crazy realization just when you were talking about us living in this artificial world. So my realization was this. So if we do indeed live in this completely artificial world, then we and anyone else, not corporations, not those that have this tangential influence, should have total ownership and be the ultimate creator of kind of our life here. And the kind of challenge that I thought about was really creating habits that naturally compel us to take risks and action to create a world that doesn't exist yet, but only exists in our heads that we can implement and create. So I was thinking, you know, if we do live in this artificial world, we should create an artificial world that's the best artificial world possible.
It's good, thank you.
I'm going to do this Raj style.
Oh, yeah.
This is sort of a little meta, but it's an observation when you were talking about earlier not to believe in anything too much. And you mentioned the wiki article of cognitive biases, which I've read quite a few times and it's super interesting. So I know that what we've learned about biases is by no means an exhaustive list, but each exercise I chose the biases you referred to, or at least the categories, to see each problem through. And I realized that, or a challenge through. And I realized that those challenges that I'm facing may not be the bias that you mentioned, but just seeing them through that frame, just shifting the perspective and seeing it through that specific frame gave me a whole new perspective on it each time. And it was almost like I was non-homogenizing my mind. It was like just seeing through this thing through like, you know, the confirmation bias or the time binding. It was like I had a nun in my elevator now. So even though it's really not about why you're there in the elevator, it's about getting out. So however you can get out, if you can shift your frame enough to get all of those non-homogenized tools inside, it doesn't really matter what the original bias was. It's just easier to now have a strategy to get out.
And that is a bow wrapped around the end of this whole first several sections. Because she is getting what this is about. Okay, that's a preview to what this is about. One of the most important tools we're going to learn later in the program is what she's doing is getting inside of each component of the system and fully getting in there and asking, okay, how is this one controlling the whole system? And then getting in another one and asking, how is this one controlling the whole system? And then getting in another one and asking, how is this one controlling the whole system? And if you do that enough, then you not only see how each contributes to controlling the whole system, but how they're working together and how to influence the system indirectly. How to leverage your attention, your willpower, to literally control the system. Whew, you've done good. You've done good. We've made twice as much progress as I expected us to make by this part of the program. Give yourself a big round of applause, please. This is excellent. It'll allow the venerable Dr. Good, Reverend Woodsmall, and I to accelerate through some of the next sections and get to the really good stuff. All right, so we got one final exercise. Can you guys hand that out? I know everyone's like, oh no, no, don't make me use my pen again. I'm so tired. No, I have to drag it across the paper. All right, this one you do not need to put a number in the corner of, because this is kind of outside the system. This is separate. This is the morning, evening, if I brought 5% more exercise. Now, what I recommend that you do is you get yourself a journal that you use just for these exercises. This is a little template here that you can use. You can feel free to copy this off or print a bunch of them out. However you want to do it is fine. But I recommend that you get a journal. Okay? Go and get yourself a journal to use for this. For now, at the program, feel free to use a pad or whatever you're taking notes on, and you can migrate into a journal. This little exercise is one of the highest leverage pieces of work I think that a human being can do in their life. So let me say that again. This little exercise is one of the highest leverage pieces of work, the highest leverage exertions of energy that a human being can do in their life. I was taught about this by my very close friend and mentor, Offer Breyer, and he learned this from Dr. Nathaniel Branden, who's known as the kind of the modern father of self-esteem. Since then, I've studied Dr. Branden's work. I've gotten to know him. I've done therapy sessions with him. He's a genius. The book I recommend that you read of his is The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. It's also up there as being one of the most important books that a person can read. The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. He's written dozens of books. That's kind of his key work on the topic. That's the seminal book on self-esteem. Self-esteem is important because it's what you think about how well you do or can do or how well you cope. Self-esteem, we're going to get more into it later in the program, but self-esteem is about knowing that you deserve to be here, that you deserve to feel happy, and critically, that deep knowing that you can cope with any situation that life throws at you, you're going to be great. Okay, just that security in this world and in your own skin, just knowing you're going to be able to cope. And these little sentence completion exercises that Nathaniel Branden has created are an amazing high leverage way to use our minds to build our self-esteem. As we were talking about, we have these pipe systems in our minds, and the water is flowing through the pipes. We have these structures. We have Mount Good, Mount Bad, these strange attractors. And what we never do, speaking generally here, what we never do is ask ourselves, what other paths could I carve for myself? What other paths could I carve? And what these exercises do is, in just a few minutes each day, they use the brain to create new possibilities for ourselves. Okay, it's like adding new vocabulary words and new distinctions, except that these are adding new future possibilities, new directions we could go, new connections for ourselves. I've done these exercises. I have a special journal that I use for them when I do them, and they've changed things profoundly. Offer, when he had me do my first set, he said, you do this every day in this prescribed format, and he said, 30 days, you'll look at yourself in the mirror and you won't recognize yourself. I said, that sounds kind of spooky. So I did the exercises, and I looked in the mirror, and I said, like I kind of recognize you, but something seems a little weird. Something seems a little different here. So I recommend that you try this. And I've designed this one specifically to work with the material that you're learning in this program. And so what I'd like you to do is do what I've done, and do what Offer has done, and do what Dr. Nathaniel Branden has done, and use his most powerful tool, and start using it morning and night. 5 minutes. I ask you to give yourself, invest 5 minutes, the first 5 minutes of your day and the last 5 minutes of your day. It's critical that you listen to what I'm saying right now and that you do this with the very first 5 minutes and the very last 5 minutes. Very first and very last. And when I say the first 5 minutes, I don't mean when you first wake up, lay in bed for a while, get up, go to the bathroom, check your email, and then say, okay, now I'm ready for my day, I'm going to do this. I mean, within 60 seconds of opening your eyes, you are writing. I mean putting this right next to your bed so that when you wake up, you don't get out of bed. You wake up and this is somewhere that you can't avoid it. You've put it in your way, like on a stand or something, so it's in your way. So you pick it up, and as soon as you can, you start writing. And then at the end of the day, very last thing, right before you go to sleep, very last thing, pen, light goes out, head hits the pillow. You clear? You understand what I'm talking about? First 5 minutes and last 5 minutes? Yeah. Okay, good. In the morning, what you're going to do when you first wake up is you're going to complete this sentence 10 times. Okay, you're going to complete this sentence 10 times. If I brought 5% more intention to my life, if I brought 5% more intention to my life, and then you're going to complete it. And you're not going to think about it, you're not going to contemplate it, you're not going to worry about, did I write the same thing yesterday? You're just going to write 10 answers as fast as you possibly can. You're not trying to look good, you're not worried about what anyone else thinks. Again, no self-consciousness, just whatever comes out for you. If I brought 5% more intention to my life. And then you're going to do the same thing at the end of the day. Last 5 minutes, right before bed, 10 times, okay? 30 seconds per answer. Okay, these are 10-word answers, 10-word sentence completions here. It'll take you 5 minutes on each end. If I brought 5% more awareness to my life, if I brought 5% more awareness. Now you might be asking, why 5%? Why not if I brought all the intention that I could possibly marshal to my life? I mean, now we're talking. Well, after many years of doing this, right, the world's expert and the creator of the technique, what he realized is that 5% is not intimidating. It's something we can wrap our minds around instantly, and it allows us, it acts as a kind of a catalyst to accelerate the creation of new possibility. It works really well with the mind. It plugs in really well. Okay, so we're building on a lot of experience here. If I brought 5% more intention, if I brought 5% more awareness. There's also more designed in here, because what we want to do is we want to, during the day, okay, while we're awake, we want to remember to create intention. You be awake with intentionality through the day. And we want to have those new possibilities ringing in our minds, those new paths that are possible as we go through our day. So we've got new paths, new structures that have already been started. And at night, when we go to sleep, if I brought 5% more awareness, so that as we are sleeping, okay, our mind is working on the possibility, and our mind is subconsciously becoming more aware and calculating and using these threads to give us access to things that maybe we haven't thought about or had access to for a long time. Resources that we haven't used potentially for decades. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to practice the morning exercise just to do it. Okay, this will take 5 minutes. Okay, so we're going to pretend that this was just woke up in the morning, and we're going to answer, if I brought 5% more intention to my life, we're going to answer it 10 times, and we're going to answer it with ideally about 10, 12, 15 words. Try to be specific, try to talk possibility. Here's what you might try if you really want to leverage this. You might close your eyes, imagine yourself in bed. Got it? Imagine yourself in bed, where you're going to have this, where you're going to have the journal, where you're going to put it, so it's right there, obvious. Not where you have to go look for it, but you can't get around it. And then imagine waking up, remembering that you're going to consciously spend the first 5 minutes of your day, you're going to invest it in yourself, invest it in creating possibilities for yourself. And then you're going to reach over and pick it up, and then start as if you were just opening your eyes now. All right, so what I'd like you to do as you're wrapping that up, so I'd like you to silently go inside and just ask yourself, can you invest 5 minutes morning and 5 minutes evening in yourself for 30 days, doing a profoundly important exercise that can have a dramatic impact on your future? Yeah? You do it for 30 days, just 30 days in a row. Can you do this? All right. Do it for yourself. I highly recommend it. I think you'll like it. I think the results that you get will surprise and delight you. And they'll also take care of you in the long run.